And welcome to Upstart's preliminary final preview. I'm Joshua Jeans. I'm joined by Damien Ratcliffe and
Josh.
Paul Bastion. Boys, how you going?
Good, nice jumper, mate. Looks really good.
Yes, of course, we had a bet, Damo, and I honoured that bet with wearing these awful colours.
Plenty of room down at Collingwood, mate. We could welcome another member.
The word on the street is you're planning your tickets to Sydney at quarter time.
I was. I had my iPhone out and was scanning flights and obviously got ahead of myself.
You got way ahead of yourself,
mate. Long story short, I'm not going anymore. So I'm jumping on the bandwagon. Anyway, let's enough of that. And let's get into some more serious matters. Damien, Friday night, Sydney Collingwood, ANZ Stadium. What's happening?
Well, it'll be the closest game of the two prelims. Paul, one team blows out in a prelim and one game's really close. This will be the close game. How close is it going to be?
Oh, history says it'll be close. It's that, you usually have one prelim, as you said, that blows out and one that stays quite close. Hawthorn's form suggests that they'll be the blowout. But even just purely on Collingwood and Sydney's history, even though Collingwood's won 11 straight, they've always been dour, tight, contested struggles. So you'd think that there won't be much in this one.
There'll be a lot of stoppages in this one, a lot of tackling, high pressure. Where do you win the game if you're Sydney?
Well, the thing is, they haven't scored over 100 points against Collingwood since about 2003, I think it is. They really have to exploit the speed, use Lewis Jetta. One of the key highlights of the Sydney-Adelaide qualifying final was when Goods kicked it over the head of Jetta and Jetta just ran onto it. They've got to play the game in their defensive half, leave their forward 50 open and really beat the Pies on pace.
Well, that's where Collingwood's done really well in the past, is that they've more than matched them in the contested ball. Then on the spread, Collingwood's killed them. So obviously players like Lewis Jetta, players with pace, are going to be really important for Sydney, as you say, running into that space and trying to open up Collingwood's defence, which was very good, held very well against West Coast.
Well, we saw it when Sydney played Adelaide, that Sydney's defence can hold up against the long ball coming in. Their back six has been phenomenal all year, and now Heath Grundy comes back in to that side. Who matches up on who? You obviously go Richards on Cloak.
For some reason, I've got a feeling that both sides are going to play a loose man in defence style game plan. We saw Collingwood against the Eagles, and Ben Reid didn't seem to have an opponent. He just was always that loose man intercepting the marks. I think Sydney played that really well as well with Richards and Grundy. One of them drops off and takes the marks. I think that's the way it's going to go. I just have a feeling that both sides are going to have a really defensive game style where they try and limit the inside 50s, and it sort of symbolises the recent outings between the two teams.
Well, David King spoke on AFL Insider. They actually went into quite in depth about that exact topic. They showed Collingwood this year, a criticism has been that the midfield's been a bit one way, and they showed on the weekend a much more stark willingness to get back. And as you say, Ben Reid was more or less about his timing was so good.
Yeah.
He was on Kennedy, arguably West Coast's most dangerous forward, but he was just picking his moments to get across, and he was intercepting really well.
He was phenomenal, Reid, last week. You'd assume he goes to his brother?
Yeah, I think so. I think the big brothers will usually. I'm a big brother, and I try and say that I'll beat my brother in footy, but. I think Ben Reid, he's All-Australian, not this year, but last year. He should beat his brother. Sam hasn't been in the best form this season, only kicked 30 goals for the year. I think there's about 4 Swans ahead of him, to be honest. But Ben Reid's been super. The other two that were really vital without Maxwell last week for the Pies was Ben Johnson and Heath Shaw. They really provide that run from defence.
Well, Shaw's been up on a wing a little bit lately, but as you say, he went back to his normal post at half-back and he gave Collingwood a great run. And he's a great one-on-one defender. People don't give him the credit he deserves one-on-one. So he's more than capable of playing on an opponent, shutting him down and then rebounding the other way.
And his brother will be doing the same off Sydney's half-back flank.
Exactly right.
The game of the brothers.
Very good comment there, Damo. Now, last week between West Coast Collingwood was a very intense game. Sydney obviously had the week off. How important is that one, Paul?
Oh, Sydney, obviously, that's the benefit of finishing top 4 and winning your qualifying final. You get the rest. They get Grundy back, as we've said. Collingwood, it's going to be interesting, especially for the older players. Darren Jolly is going to be vital in the ruck, and how he pulls up after such a brutal game playing on Cox and Natanui. Even Ben Johnson, Didak's calf will be interesting. I'm not sure what happens there yet.
Yeah, it's definitely an advantage for the Swans, getting the week off. And as you said, Jolly did a really good job against your boys last week, Cox and Natanui. But the question mark is, can he back it up 2 weeks in a row?
Yeah, Mumford and Pike aren't any
They're not
pushovers.
mugs. No, they're not mugs. Jolly taught Pike everything he knows. I read on the back page of Wednesday's Herald Sun. So it'll be interesting. Jolly up against the Swans. Might be able to provide a bit of inside information about their game plan, but it's been 2009 since he was there last. So it's been a while since he's been there.
So where's this game won and lost?
The game's won and lost in either team's forward line, I think. However, each team can effectively get the ball inside 50 and kick goals from inside 50 entries. For the Pies, Cloak has to be dominant taking marks. I can't see Collingwood playing that game style where they leave the 50 open and run onto it. So the game's going to be played mainly in Collingwood's half. I think Sydney will control it when they've got the ball, be really stagnant, keep their players up the ground and kick it over the top. Pies, I can see the Pies forward line getting really crowded. It's going to make Cloak's job hard, but then again, blokes like Cracker, Thomas, these guys are going to have to step up and kick some goals.
And for that exact reason, I'm going to say the contested ball is going to be absolutely vital. Last time these two played, there was 87 hitouts between Jolly and Mumford, which tells you how many stoppages there were. So again, whoever wins the clearances gives first use to get away from that congestion. Exactly right.
Absolutely. So Damo, no questions who you're going for this week, I'm guessing.
As a Collingwood supporter, I'm really confident when we play Sydney. I just all the time. I think we played them in a final a few years back.
2007?
Yeah. Obviously won that game as well. Cloak was really dominant that day. I just think against the Swans, the Pies just have the wood and it's going to carry over.
Well, Collingwood's form against interstate sides in finals in general has been very good. I think Brisbane's the only interstate side to beat Collingwood in a final since 1994. So that's quite a great record, and I think that'll continue. I think Collingwood will beat Sydney.
Well, I'm not too sure about that, and I definitely don't hope. I can't be wearing this jumper 2 weeks in a row, so I'm going to go with Sydney. Now, on Saturday afternoon, twilight, I should say, Damien and Paul, Hawthorn takes on Adelaide at the MCG. Why is it twilight?
Well, look, I think the reason is because Freo and Adelaide were playing in the semi-final. They want to branch the game, have the game seen by as many people as possible. By playing the game at 5 o'clock, it means Perth viewers can watch it at 2 o'clock rather than a 2 o'clock game, they watch it at 11 o'clock. Is it the right decision? Well, Freo aren't in finals anymore, so technically probably not the right decision, but in the end, it's all about money and viewers.
As you say, it's the commercial reality, but the fact is that Hawthorn has been dudded out of this big time. I mean, they finished top, they deserve to have the biggest rest, and they're not going to get that.
Yeah. Surely, though, it has no effect this week.
Not this week, no, it shouldn't have too much effect this week. I think the Hawks are short price favourites for a good reason. Finish on top of the ladder, they're being very dominant, get a week off, and that always holds the top 4 team in good stead.
Well, let's get into it. For me, this game's going to be won or lost in the midfield. Adelaide's midfield needs to get on top. Sam Jacobs, unfortunate and unlucky not to get into the All-Australian team. I think he was better than Natanui this year, even as a big Natanui fan, as you both know. Paul, what do you think? Can they get on top in the midfield?
Adelaide?
I
don't think so. I think Hawthorn has too much talent, too much depth in the midfield. Obviously, Dangerfield and Scott Thompson have been Herculean this year. They've been absolutely fantastic, but that's matched up with Sewell, Mitchell, and then you've got people on the outskirts like Isaac Smith that give Hawthorn great run. I think Hawthorn's just too deep and too strong.
Yeah, they're going to need Sam Jacobs to really put the ball down Dangerfield's throat, down Scott Thompson's throat. Those two guys need first use of the centre clearances. Blokes like Sloan, the Matty Wrights, these blokes that are sort of the B graders. Paul Pleasure was brilliant last week, coming off the wing and getting loose up forward. those guys really have to stand up for the Crows.
Yeah, you couldn't see with the loss of Sam Shaw now as well, and no Talia, of course. Adelaide's backline looks pretty flimsy, and they're going up against the strongest forward line, arguably, in the competition.
Oh, Hawthorn kicked 20 goals against Collingwood in the qualifying final, and yeah, as you say, they're very strong. Franklin, Gunston, they're so flexible down there, aren't they? Roughhead, they give just so many dimensions, and I think Rutten has to go to Franklin, the big truck. He did a great job last week, but the mobility is the issue, isn't it, Damo? With Franklin, with Rutten trying to keep up with him, really up the ground.
Yeah, I think Adelaide can kick enough goals to win the game, but can they restrict Hawthorn as far as them kicking goals? Franklin, Roughhead, Rioli, Puopolo, Bruce just kicked 41 goals this year and equals second on Hawthorn's goal kicking. The list goes on. Shields. It's going to be so hard to stop.
And then you've got their backline as well, contributing as well. You've got Suckling, Burgoyne. These guys can pop up with a goal as well. So I'm pretty scared for this game. I don't see it being too close. Can Adelaide, that you said they can kick a winning score, how do they get rid of Gibson?
The only way they can win, in my eyes, is if they play Walker one out in the goal square, which means either if Schoenmakers goes to him, I think Walker can beat him one-on-one, body-on-body. If Gibson goes to him, I think Walker can still beat Gibson one-on-one, body-on-body. But the way Hawthorn have to negate that is, if Adelaide's small forwards can stay out of the way, you don't want Gibson flying in the air.
Well, Gibson had 30 touches last time these two played, so he was the dominant force on the field. And as you say, you've got to make sure you engage Gibson. I think I said the same thing when Collingwood played Hawthorn with Dawes, and Dawsey didn't quite engage him enough. So maybe you just got to make sure you get Gibson away from those contests because he kills the ball. He's the best spoiler in the comp.
He reads it so well.
Yeah.
He's well, I don't know if there's much for Adelaide to go on here. If you're Brendan Sanderson, how do you win this game, Paul?
Contested ball. That's been his ethos all year, Brendan Sanderson. He got into the club and was annoyed that they weren't strong enough in the body and even in the mind, I suppose, to win those hard balls. And they've improved that. They've been top two in the competition all year for contested ball. So if they can win it, if Sam Jacobs can get first use to their midfield and get it long, as you say, to Taylor Walker one out, then they're a chance.
Yeah, that's the one facet that Adelaide have better than Hawthorn is their ruck. So they're going to need to turn the game into a real stoppage game and then, try and get that clearance. And if they can't get the clearance, it's going to be the tackles. They have to tackle, wrap it up, start again.
And Hawthorn's ruckman and no pushover either.
No, David Hale and Roughhead they're good ruckmen, well, but Darren Jolie outplayed them, I think you'd say, in the qualifying final, and Sam Jacobs was in the squad, as we were talking about, for All-Australian, so he's quite accomplished himself.
Should be there. All right, Damo, so no secrets here, Hawthorn?
Yeah, they're short price favourites for a reason. The Hawks, I think it will be close up to three-quarter time. I can see after that last break that Hawthorn will break this game open and win by a bit.
Yeah, I agree. I think Hawthorn will just outlast the Crows, who have had a great year, and Hawthorn to make the grand final. I
think the MCG will be selling a few jars this week. I reckon it'll be over at half time. I'll be down there at half time anyway. And for me, it's definitely going to be Hawthorn. I think I can see it by 80 points.
Okay.
I'm going to anyway. Yeah, no, don't agree with me. That's all right. All right, guys. Thanks for that, and we'll see you next time.